My name is Willy Bolander. I study influence, persuasion, and leadership in selling and sales management, and I teach people how to sell. In this podcast, we'll talk to some of the world's top sales leaders and see what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Sales Lab.
We are here with Tim LeVrier at Michels. And of course, we're going to continue this conversation about what is technical sales in the context of his company. Thank you for being here, Tim.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. I know you shared a little bit with me, but give us just from the starting point here. What is Michels? What do you guys do?
Sure. So Michels is an international infrastructure and utility contractor. So we play in a lot of different spaces in the utility market for global infrastructure. So pretty much anything that keeps the world running. I'm going to start with the group that I help support. It's called Michels Energy Group. In that group, we have 4 different business units or operational companies. One is Michels Pipeline. They are one of the largest union pipeline contractors in North America year on year. The second is Michels Power. They are actually our largest operations company. They do about 1.3, 1.4 billion, and we're probably going to be growing that by double in the next 3 to 4 years, just with the market and where the power market's going, strengthening the grid, growing of data centers. All those things are going to play into that business growing. The third company under Michels Energy Group is Michels Utility Services, and they handle all of our wet and dry utilities. What I mean by that is natural gas distribution, power distribution, electric distribution, and all of our telecom. And the fourth company is Michels Pacific Energy, and that's a ring-fenced company that we have out on the West Coast. So they pretty much do everything that Michels Pipeline and Michels Power does, just kind of located geographically California, Oregon, Washington, and some surrounding states in that area. So that's the pillar. That's the first pillar that I support. The second pillar is a group called MyCon, so it's short for Michels Construction, and they house several different business units as well. The first one I want to talk about is probably the world leader in trenchless. So installing, whether that's pipelines, power lines, water lines, any type of utility without digging a ditch. So horizontal directional drilling, direct pipe, several other technologies like auger boring, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all things they're world leaders in. And if there's a job that's too tough for anybody else, they always call Michels to do it. So that's the first group in MyCon. The second group is Michels Marine. So think subsea pipeline and oil and gas construction support, dredging, pipe lay, et cetera, et cetera. We have our deep foundations group. So they do deep drilled foundations. And so they did the McDonald's building in downtown Chicago, the skyscraper, they did the foundations for that. So they do heavy foundations. We have a road and stone group. We are the largest DOT contractor in the state of Wisconsin. And then we are also the largest quarry owner in the state of Wisconsin. And then the third pillar, if you will, is our international business. That started with Michels Canada. They are a wholly owned subsidiary about 25, 30 years ago. And recently, in the last 3 years, we branched out to Europe and Asia Pac. We're doing a lot of overhead to underground conversion in the power market in Germany. And then we are working on a project called Snowy Hydro. So it's a hydro renewable facility that we are doing some drills on. So that's really kind of the basis of who we are as a company. We're about $5 billion, a little bit under $5 billion in revenue, 8,000 employees. We have 18,000 pieces of equipment that are all owned, and we are family owned. The second generation of the Michels family is currently captaining the ship, and the third generation is ready and waiting in the wings. So we're financially strong and have a great culture and a great just business that the Michels family has put together, and I'm happy to be a part of it and help run it.
Wow. This content is brought to you by the TIES Sales Showdown. That's the Technical, Industrial, and Engineering Student Sales Showdown, hosted right here at Texas A&M University. We have over 200 engineering students taking sales classes every semester and a growing minor program in technical sales. These students are smart enough for STEM and savvy enough for sales, and the TIES Showdown allows them to demonstrate their selling skills in a role-play competition where industry partners, like you, serve as judges and provide them coaching feedback. If you're hiring for technical, industrial, or engineering sales roles anytime in the next couple of years, this is an event you can't miss. You can learn more at tx.ag/ties. That's tx.ag/TIES. Hope you can join us.
And So I'm hearing a lot of, governmental agencies, departments, maybe cities, utilities. What percentage of it is sort of government facing versus, selling to other companies privately?
Well, in the energy group, the group that I support, it's primarily, I would say, 90 to 95% private companies and public companies. So not not government and cities and all that stuff. In the Mycon group, probably the majority, 60% of their work is probably more around municipalities, cities, DOTs, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a good mix kind of across both sides. And we also have a federal group that does work for the Army and Marine Corps and other groups like that. So it could be anything from upgrading electrical infrastructure at bases to roads to, getting gas and fuel to places they can get, their equipment fueled up. So it's a wide variety of stuff we kind of look at from that angle.
Yeah. Okay. And I remember when we first spoke, you were talking about the converting above ground power lines into the below ground power lines. And I joked about my years in Tallahassee and their seeming insistence on weaving all the power lines through all the branches of the trees. And you're saying, no, we don't want to cut the trees down. Okay, cool. Then bury the lines.
Yeah. Well, it's
well, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But, the effect, of course, was that the slightest gust of wind would, people would be concerned when the hurricanes coming in, we'd be getting calls from out of state. Hey, how are things? Did you lose power? Oh, we lose power every couple of days for no reason. Yeah. It's constant. And, so I see a problem that you guys can solve. That makes sense to me.
Well, yeah, we also have, I didn't mention this in our power group, we have a storm response group. So when there's a big hurricane or, some kind of great event that causes power to go down, we mobilize crews and get them to that area to help. So last year in Houston, where I lived, we had two events. The first one was the derecho, I guess, or the straight line winds that took out the majority of the city's power. I lost power for 8 days. I was very glad to have the Michels crews come down and help support and fix the lines. And the second one was Hurricane Beryl. And so the storm business was good to us last year. However unfortunate that is for the people we serve.
Indeed. So I'm guessing there's not a huge number of customers. There's not an endless supply of customers.
For the storm work or for work in general?
For Michels in general. I mean, not everybody's installing utilities.
That's correct. But we work with a variety of different customers. So whether they're developers, they're looking for public money to go out and fund and build projects, whether they're private companies, some, for example, like Nextera, Williams, companies like that, or just the municipalities and cities we talked about. Our customer base is pretty large, depending on the group. Like our pipeline group bids anywhere from 600 to 700 opportunities a year. Some of those small, some of those large, just depends on kind of what the customer is looking to do. We have regional operations that help support the smaller work. And then we have major projects and facilities team that help support the larger work. And it's just a good mix and base. There are probably more customers than you think. Every city has a company like CenterPoint here in Houston. I forget who it is in the Brazos Valley, but CenterPoint has both gas and electric, and they're serving obviously a lot of people here in the Houston Metroplex area. But there's other companies like that: CenterPoint, Excel, We Energies. The list goes on and on of companies that we can potentially work for on multiple sides of our business, and we try to do that. Part of our sales technique is when we're reaching out or calling on companies, we try to bring in as many Michels companies that I mentioned earlier into the fold as we can. I can go into some more of that in more detail later, but that's generally the goal. We call it one Michels, and that's really more of an internal term we use to the customer, being able to support and provide, the full scope of the project, where our competitors can generally take on one piece. We have the ability to take on multiple pieces. And so when they see Michels on the job site or Michels in our bid or whatever it is, they're just seeing one company do it, thinking like, hey, it's singular. It's one. We're not going to have, company A, company B, company C out there running around. It's all coordinated. And that's one of the competitive advantages we have being with Michels.
Absolutely. And so, the big question, of course, is what is technical sales at Michels? So you described a little bit about the company and the different divisions. So, what is technical sales? What does it look like? In what ways is it technical?
Sure. So, I think I'll start with talking about the projects we build, right? These are all highly engineered, very technical projects. You would think putting pipe in the ground would be pretty easy. It's not. A lot goes into it. And we find that linear projects create a lot of other opportunities to find something new that we've never done before. When you're going down the line, you're dealing with different landowners and different, subsurface conditions, et cetera, things that can throw a wrench in your plan. When you're working at a facility, you generally have geotech. It's generally in the fence. You know what you're going to get, right? So there are always things that can come up. But technical sales at Michels is really, there's many different parts to it. First, it's understanding the industry, understanding the project, understanding what goes into the project, and really building a case for why this fits for us. And I actually talked to one of our business development managers about this last week. She's relatively new into business development, and she was getting frustrated that she would go out and get opportunities and then bring them in, and we either wouldn't bid them or wouldn't really have a great shot at winning them. And I was like, well, did you qualify the lead? Well, what does that mean? Well, there's many ways you can qualify the lead, both internally and externally. Internally qualifying the lead is understanding why the project's important, what it's going to do for us. Have we worked with a customer before? Do we even want to work with this customer? Just because they have a project, does that mean that we want to be part of it? Maybe not. So really getting an understanding of what the project means to us internally, and then qualifying it externally, figuring out what's important to the customer. Why are they building this project? What timelines are they on? What's their budget, et cetera, et cetera. Many questions you can ask to qualify. So first of all, so that's not first, but really getting a good understanding of why the project is important and what is our win strategy is kind of how we go about it. And then from there, there's an endless spider web of ways you can go in technical sales. So if we have a relationship with the customer, that's one thing that makes it easy. If it's a new customer, how do we get in? Do we start at the top? Do we start at the bottom? Do we do both? And I like to call, we do it all. It's a zipper approach. So it's top down, bottom up, hitting every level of the company and getting an understanding of who they are, what's driving them, and who's the decision maker, who's the influencer, and how do we get ourselves in front of them, right? We can work with engineering companies that have been designing the job, generally having a pulse on the industry and understanding what other, I guess I'll call them partners in the industry, are working on the job. For example, if there's a pipeline that's getting built in Ohio with a company that we had previously not worked for, but my buddies at an engineering company down the street are doing the design, well, I'm probably going to reach out to them first and get an understanding of the job, where they're at on it, who the important people are, what's important to the customer, and then kind of use them as a door opener for me to get in. And then when we get the bid, we try to understand what our bid team is going to be going through, what they're going to be looking at, what's required of that, and then getting them the information. We try to bring as much information to our internal teams to bid the jobs and to look at the jobs in a way that's going to give us the best chance of winning. We're looking at a job right now for one of our larger customers up in the Northeast. It's a one Michels project potential. So there's many different business units that can be on there, and there's an onshore portion and an offshore portion to the project. Well, in our conversations with this customer, we have found that, the price is important for them. They've already spent a lot of money on this job. It's been through permitting hell, to be quite frank, and they're finally getting the permits in place where they can build it. So the cost they've spent already, they're trying to mitigate that. And they also have a longer schedule to get this job in service. So they're looking for creative ways to keep the price down if we can build it and sequence it in a way that will still allow us to meet the schedule. So it's really having an understanding of everything that goes into it and putting in this case Michels in the best situation to win the job.
Okay. And you mentioned the process of there being kind of an interaction between kind of the salesperson and the internal team that's creating the bid. Can you explain? So if I'm the salesperson, what am I doing? What am I doing when I tap into that internal team? And then how does all that unfold?
Well, I mean, yeah. So these conversations happen organically, or they could be in meetings. We have weekly meetings where we talk about what we're chasing, what we're working on, what we're bidding, or it can just be the fact that, as the salesperson, it's probably a pretty good idea to have a good understanding of where you're at in your business and where the business wants to go. So those conversations are really just trying to, like I said, qualify what we're doing and why we're doing it, right? Have an understanding of the importance of the job, have an understanding of the importance of the customer, and then build a win strategy around that. So that's really what we're trying to do when we have those conversations internally. And like I said, those conversations happen almost every day. If we're not talking to our operations people, we're probably not doing our job very well.
Sure.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think a little bit. And then, so the salesperson is out. Are they typically out of the office, popping in places, visiting people in person? Are they doing calls and outreach from within an office or maybe at their home? What does the day-to-day look like for those salespeople?
Well, I think it varies. That's one of the good things about, one of the good things I find about our jobs and our careers is you kind of make your own day, right? With Michels being as large as we are and the sales team we have, I think on our side, we have a total of 8 people that help support. There's myself, we have a few directors, a few managers, then we have a business development coordinator. And what that coordinator does is she does a lot of market research, a lot of intel for us. We have a lot of tools like Zoom Info and other types of softwares that can help us, get the information we need. So on a day-to-day basis, it really kind of varies. We travel all over. Probably about 50% of the time, the sales reps that we have are on the road. It's a lot of interaction with customers. And like I said, going through that process, the information gathering process is probably done in the office. But then when you're reaching out via email or calling or whatever, get the meeting and then go out, whether that's setting up a presentation, a technical presentation, or just an informative presentation on, hey, this is who we are. This is why we're a benefit to you. This is how we can help, right? There's some of that. There's a lot of relationship building, and really in the energy part of the business, because we're dealing with publicly traded and privately held companies, relationships go an awful long way. And I'm not talking about, making these people your best friends. It's helpful when they are, but really getting a working relationship where they can understand that you are there to help. You're not just trying to weasel in and get their business. You're really trying to provide a solution, right? And so that's something that we really focus on, is getting the information that we get from the customers, understanding what their pain is, and then finding a solution for that pain. So it's a lot of going out in meetings. I mean, I have some people that have, a breakfast meeting, a meeting before lunch, a lunch, and then a coffee after lunch, right? And they can do that 4 or 5 times a week. And then there's some weeks where they're in the office 3 or 4 days doing research, building their call plan, building their account plans, and really kind of getting themselves set up for success in driving business. And so, like I said, it's one of the cool things about our job is you're not locked to a certain schedule. You're not locked to a certain location. And I've had a lot of fun doing it.
I think you're talking about the relationship and creating that. My impression is that some people can kind of get a little confused on, technical seems at odds with relationship, right? If I'm just selling with a relationship, it means they like me and maybe I've got some charisma and they like doing business with me, and it's all about that, those sort of intangibles. But obviously it's both, right? I mean, right. So in what situations is it super technical, getting in the weeds, proving every point, every line on the spec sheet, right? Versus, at what point have you built that trust and you can just kind of say, hey, take my word on this, trust me on this?
Well, I think that comes with working with the customer before, but also showing that you know what you're talking about, showing that you've been there and done that. I think for technical sales, it's extremely important to have some real world working experience in what you're selling. For example, when I started with Weatherford early in my career, they're a oil field services company. Yeah. They actually had a really good program. I was a field trainee engineer, if you will. So I started by going to I was in the drilling group. So we started by going to the motor shop in Northwest Houston and actually taking apart and rebuilding motors, right? And then when I got that down and understand how the motors work, I went out to the field and I would go out to drilling rigs for 2-3 weeks at a time and kind of just observe and train and ask questions and learn, right? And then when I had a good understanding of what it was I was actually trying to accomplish, I would be able to talk to my customers at a higher level than other salespeople, right? So having an understanding of what you're selling. When I moved to Mustang Engineering, which is now Wood, one of the largest engineering companies in the world, it was a career change for me in more ways than one. I was going from oil field services to engineering, and not only from the upstream portion of the oil field, but to the midstream portion. So what I mean by upstream is exploration, drilling, and production. And now I'm in the midstream portion, which is transportation. It's getting the oil and gas from the well to the refinery, to the terminal, to wherever it's going, right? And so it's a whole new business. What I did there it was engineering, right? So we had a lot of engineers. I just latched on to our best engineer and sat in on every meeting, every project meeting he had, every bid meeting he had. I learned how to read alignment sheets. I learned how to read stationing. I sat in with our field services team and really kind of understood what they did, went out to the field and saw survey crews, got myself a GIS account internally and played around with GIS to understand what that meant, and really kind of diving in and really just getting yourself immersed in what it is you're actually selling. Now I'm doing pipeline and construction and power construction and everything that goes along with that. I've been out to the field and kind of observed that and had some working knowledge. And being able to talk to the technical part of the job is extremely important. If you go into a customer meeting and you're just there, what kind of value are you really bringing, right? Not much, right? So I'm not saying you want to take over the meeting from the operations teams that's with you, but being able to have some anecdotal responses, being able to contribute goes a long way in building that trust with that customer that you actually know what you're talking about, and you're not just there to take them to lunch or buy them a beer or whatever, right? There's more to that, and so I think when you're able to show that you have some value, the relationships start to form quicker and stronger as well.
Gotcha. And you said something that actually, no, I got a couple of questions I wrote down here. In these interactions, how many people when you're navigating these sales opportunities, how many people are actually involved? I mean, on the customer side, on the Michels side, if there's external partners, what's the level of complexity there?
Well, that varies as well. I think it depends on, the customer, how well you know them. I think it depends on the type of project you're going after. And I think it really depends on the skill level and experience of the salesperson. When I was young in my career, I was calling on, obviously, younger people as well, people with less experience. And so I would bring the appropriate level of operational support. Now that I'm, 17 years in, the meetings are a little different. They're a little higher level. Sometimes I go solo if I know the customer really well and I'm trying to get information, maybe bringing someone from operations and having them in the room might not be the right call. So I think it just depends on what the purpose of the meeting is, who the customer is, and what you're trying to accomplish. But, we did a technical presentation on the trenchless group I told you earlier today. And so we had the president of the trenchless group, his vice president, and then the president of our engineering group, which I didn't mention earlier. We also have an engineering arm that does trenchless engineering and then also distribution engineering for gas, power, and electric. But I had the right people in the room. So I would kick off the meeting. I would kind of run the presentation. But when it got to something technical, I had the right people to help support and answer those questions and really kind of dive in and show their expertise, which, yes, I know about it. I'm familiar with it. I can talk to it, but I'm not an expert in it, right? So having the right level of expertise in the room is extremely important. And knowing who's going to be in the room from the customer side and kind of fleshing that out will help you dictate who you need to bring with you and how you need to go about that.
Two questions on that front. So how do you find out who's going to be in the room? And when you know who's going to be in the room, what specifically does that tell you? Or is it just a matter of matching? But let me ask the first question first. So how do you find out who's going to be in the room?
It's a really complicated process. You just ask.
Just ask.
Yeah, you just ask. Because and here's why it's important to ask, right? We're all busy. I mean, I don't know of a professional person in the energy industry that is not busy. If they're going to have a certain level of person in that room or something they're trying to accomplish, I do not want to waste their time. I'm trying to create value at all levels of the organization, all levels of the buying chain. And so if we are fortunate enough to get a meeting with the right people that they have in the room, I want to make sure I have the right people in the room as well. So yeah, I just ask. I mean, it's as simple as that. Hey, it's super important. This meeting's super important. We want to make sure we are meeting your needs. Who from your side is going to be in the meeting? So I make sure I have the appropriate personnel on our side to help answer those questions at the right levels. It's as simple as that. And I will say this, people are afraid to ask, and you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of, you got to remember, as a salesperson, you are trying to provide value to your customer. And I think that's something that gets lost an awful lot. So asking that question tells them, or at least if someone asked me that question, it would tell me, hey, they care. They are trying to do the right thing here and make sure this is a meeting that has some substance to it and a meeting that's going to provide some value to not only the customer, but to Michels as well. So ask.
I love it. We have a tendency of complicating things that don't always need to be complicated.
Doesn't have to be.
One of my favorites is, if a student's trying to reach out to a company, they might say, well, I sent a LinkedIn message and then I sent an email and then my plan is to maybe, send a letter. This is, maybe not so much anymore, but, we're going to do all these steps. And then, I have their phone number and I'll call them afterward. But you have their phone number? Just call them. You could just call them. Just, you're putting an awful lot of. Now, I mean, there's something to be said about being systematic and having a nice cadence of multiple touch points. Sure. But yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like you're going out of your way to not call them. You can just call them. It's easy.
So right. Yeah, I think calling is super important. And I always call first before I email. And chances are they're not going to answer it the first time, right? But at least you called, you left a message, you let them know who you are, what the purpose of your call is for, and then you send them a nice email. Now, if they do answer, you better be on your game and have something to talk about and know what you want to say and what you're trying to accomplish, because they probably are busy. You probably caught them off guard and caught them with their guard down, so they answered their call, which is often the case. But you better be prepared if you're gonna call somebody and try to take their time. Like I said, value. Don't waste your time. So don't just be like, hey, how's it going? Have a purpose and kind of get your point across early.
Absolutely. And then based on that answer, I mean, it sounds like what you're doing with who you invite from your side is just matching, right? So if they have somebody, an expert in X, you're going to want to bring your guy in. So it's just a matter of having somebody to correspond with everybody at their table.
Yes, sir. Okay. Very, very much so. I think that's important. Like I said, it shows by knowing that information, it shows that you guys are committed. If they have their executive vice president in the room, that person's a high dollar individual. What I mean by that is every minute he's in that room is costing the company money. You want to make sure that you have the appropriate level on your side there as well, showing them that you're committed as well.
So a little bit of signaling in addition to being able to match expertise, also just being able to communicate, hey, we're serious about this. Okay.
Right.
And you mentioned a moment ago that, when you're qualifying, one of the things you're asking is, do we even want to be part of this project? What would be a signal? I mean, think about our early career salespeople who I think always, I try not to say things like always, but I think it might be true in this case. I always want to get in, I want everything, right? We're trying to get people to agree to it. And so what are the criteria that tell you, no, not this one?
Well, this is a real world example that I can give that happened last week. So a different company, one of our major pipeline operator companies that we work for. Let's take a step back from that. So with Michels, we are a union contractor. Somewhere in the ether in different holding companies, and as these students will find out, there are a ton of holding companies in business. So what that means is different, shell companies will hold other units. we have a non-union, the Michels family has a non-union group called Equix. Equix is kind of a startup pipeline company. What I mean by that is they were doing natural gas distribution. So building pipelines, but much smaller, much lower pressure. And we are trying to get them into the more transmission, so larger diameter, larger pressure, longer pipelines. When you think of distribution, think of your neighborhood streets. When you think of transmission, think of like I-10 or I-45 or something like that. So big highways, right? Well, this company that I'm talking about is a transmission company. So we are trying to fit a square peg through a round hole with a distribution contractor. Me being, 15 years ago would have said, hey, yeah, we can do that job. We sure can. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But now, as I'm more, I guess, established and been doing this a little bit longer, and I'm talking with the director of project development at this company and says, hey, we have this opportunity. Can you guys help us out? And I said, okay, well, let's look at it. So the job's in the Gulf Coast, which is traditionally a non-union area. So I said, well, we could bid this, but the numbers we're going to give you from Michels are probably going to be higher than what you're expecting. And we're probably not going to build that job for you anyways. We have this company called Equix. They're a non-union company. They're getting into pipeline. They have guys that can estimate this job for you. It's just an estimate, just a budgetary. We're not going to actually be building it for you. He goes, okay, great. So we turn the estimate in. He goes, oh, this is great. And I said, Matt, this probably isn't the right job for that company to do for you guys first. He goes, well, why is that? I said, because they haven't done it before. And we have a long-standing relationship between Michels and your company. I would like to establish that with this company, but we need to start jobs that fit their skill set. He goes, okay, what's their skill set? So then we talked about it. So he goes, well, I have a job that's pretty similar to that. How about we give you a chance to bid that? Matt, that sounds great. So we start with something that we know we can do, build trust, build relationships, show them that, hey, and by the way, working for different companies, it's different all the time. They have different requirements, they have different specs, they have different, needs, different things that's important to them. And taking on a larger job first opens the door for a lot more trouble. If we can start small and understand what's important to their construction managers, what's important to their engineers, what's important to their environmental managers, and really kind of learn by doing 3, 4, 5 smaller jobs, well, hey, you set yourself up for a lot more long-term success getting into those bigger jobs. If you can do these smaller jobs well, you can kind of get more every single time. You'll find a way into the larger projects. And that way, no one gets burned and you have a strong working relationship for hopefully a long time.
Indeed. So you said 15 years ago, you might not have been able to pick up on the situation. When did that transition occur? How long were you, in the professional working world before you could really look at it sober-mindedly?
Willie, I don't know. I've had a lot of. I've been very fortunate in my career. At every stop that I've been at, even Michels, the gentleman who brought me over here, was kind of the person that I worked with at Mustang and Wood, and he kind of helped me really teach me pipeline, right? And so he came over here, and I've had great mentors at Wood. I've had great mentors at Weatherford, and I really don't know when that happened. I really don't know, but I just know that I've tried to take something, or in this case, many things from people that have been doing it a lot longer than me, and try to build those skill sets and those ways of doing business, those interactions they have, and kind of learn from that, but then make it mine. And that's one thing that I think it's extremely important for salespeople to understand, is that there's no one way to do this. For example, I have a lady who works for me who is fantastic, but she'll say it herself. She's a very quirky person. When I hired her when I was at Equix, I thought to myself, man, maybe I should, and I've told her this, so if she watches it, she's not going to be offended. I said, maybe I should say something about it, because it's not my style. And I thought, let's just see how it goes. And if things don't go well, then we'll talk about it. That was probably the best decision I ever made with an employee, is not talking to her about it, because people love her style. People love the way she does business. And although it's not my style, it works for her and it works for the company. So why would I change it? Right. Yeah. So so to answer your question, I really can't answer the question. I don't know when that happened. I think it comes from being around good people, being around people that you want to learn from and are willing to teach you. And I think that's for early salespeople, getting with an organization that, one, values development and values business development, because not all organizations value it. And that's okay. I mean, maybe it works for them, maybe it doesn't. But I've been fortunate to be at a lot of organizations that really value sales, business development, marketing, et cetera. And I've been around a lot of great sales leaders and business development leaders that have wanted to pour into me. And a lot of that comes from my attitude of, wanting to be poured into. So I think that's really what it's all about. And so I can't answer when that happened, but I just know it happened. So
yeah. Well, this is a eternal lesson for early career people. Find a mentor, find somebody who can point out suboptimal behaviors and teach you this mature perspective that I think is part of what you're describing. How can an early career person go about identifying if they're not in a company that has a structure that, okay, here's your mentor, if they just kind of have to make it happen, how should they go about doing that?
Networking. I think that's a really key. I think networking in sales is extremely important. Well, I guess because in the industry we're in, and I'm just going to talk about the pipeline industry for now. It's a large industry, but it's very small. And so the more people in it, the more people that you get to know, and really on a personal level as well as professional, they can help you. I mean, I've helped a countless number of my colleagues in the industry find new jobs, find new employees. It's really all about who you know. And so if you're at an organization that maybe doesn't have a great sales mentor, or maybe doesn't have a great sales culture, network, ask around, and then find a place that will work for you, right? And people are willing to help. I think that's the biggest thing, is that, someone like myself who's been doing this 17 years now, I remember what it was like being 23, 24, 25, trying to sell, right? And not really knowing much. And so I had people that were willing to help me. And so I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of people, at least most people that I know and interact with, are willing to help others as well, especially the young people, because they are really the future of our industry. If you look at the industry post-COVID, and you're looking at, the labor force, we're going to have a serious labor issue. And so some of the trade associations I'm involved in, we're doing studies around how do we recruit, attract, and more importantly, retain our employees for staying in the industry. And so the culture is there. You just really need to find a good group to kind of have as your core group in the industry, and really kind of expand that network from there. But I think networking is really key, and opens a lot of doors in more ways than you might know.
And I'm going to keep getting more and more detailed here, because a fair amount of my research is around issues of social networks and the value of relationships. And so when you say networking, how? Inside my own organization, with external parties, what's my pitch to them? I know what I can get out of their accumulated wisdom, but am I just relying on them being nice people who want to pour into a young person, or is there some value proposition I can make to make this happen?
So we'll go in order here. So yes, internally and externally, and I'll get to the external part in a moment, but the value for internal networking is, one, you understand, the people of your company, and you get to know them and understand what makes them tick, what makes them who they are. And that's important for many reasons on an interpersonal level inside corporations. But also, as a young person coming into an organization, I love it. And I think most people do when they ask questions. And I think that the important thing is, if you're on a good team, generally good teams do what? They pull in the same direction, right? And so corporations, in my mind, are nothing more than extremely large teams at sometimes. And so if there's a senior person in the organization and I'm a young person, I come to them and say, hey, I have this problem, or I need to answer this question, or whatever. The way I think about it is, I want to make that person better, because the better they do, the better I'm going to do, the better the company's going to do, and the more money I'm going to make. That's how I look at it. Not everyone does, but I think you need to find the right people in an organization that have that kind of mindset, that, they want to win. They want everyone to win. That's not always going to be the case, and that's unfortunate. So move on to the next one. Externally, trade associations, groups like that. So here in Houston, we have a group called the Pipeliners Association of Houston. We're about 1,800 members strong. I'm actually the president of that this year. I've been with the organization for 13 years now. I started the Pipeliners Young Professionals, so a young professionals group there. I've been on the membership committee. I've really gotten involved, and people from my customers. So, for example, on the officers' chairs with me, there are 2 contractors, so one of my competitors and me, and then there are 3 operators, so companies we work for. I have a meeting after this with the chairs, and one of those guys is a guy that's over that project I mentioned earlier that has the onshore and offshore portion. So it gives you an opportunity to just have even more time with them, contributing to the industry that we both love and really kind of giving back. So I know that I'm kind of going in circles here, but the point is getting out there and networking, it just opens so many doors. And whether that's with our peers, I'm friends with my competitors. I mean, we're building a project tracking sheet, and I need to know how much work is out there and who can take that work. We share information sometimes. We're not giving away, the farm here. We're just saying, hey, what about this? Can you guys do this? Oh no, we're booked. We're full. That's great information. It doesn't hurt anything really, but it just, I know that if they need something, I'm gonna be able to help them out too. Right. So, I just can't speak highly enough about networking, but the Pipeliners is a great organization. We gave away $1.3 million in scholarships, and I'm happy to say Texas A&M received more money than any other school this year. So that's awesome. Great. Yeah.
Right. And in terms of the value proposition of an early career person looking for a mentor, what do they bring to the table for someone who might be mentoring them?
In terms of what does the young person bring to the table? Yeah.
What I'm imagining, so I guess I have a specific scenario in my head, right? That we have a student coming out of a class where they've been told, solve a problem, make a value proposition, and they don't necessarily want to walk up to somebody and say, hey, will you be my mentor? Just because they want to make a value proposition. What value proposition could they make to somebody, 20 years, 40 years down the road that they would like to learn from?
Well, I think that's kind of a tough question because I think everyone's different, obviously. But the value prop to me is that I care about this industry. I care about my company. I care about what we do. It means something to me. And so I want our industry to stay strong. If there's a young person, as I just mentioned, the labor force, if there's a young person that's interested in the industry, that wants to get involved, that wants to make a career out of it, I want to foster that because I don't want our industry going anywhere. I want us to be strong. I want us to be the best, which I believe we are. And so that's why I'm going to help. And I don't think you can just walk up to someone and say, hey, I want you to be my mentor. You got to establish rapport. You got to establish, it's not going to happen day one. Sometimes it can. I mean, the Pipeliners that I mentioned earlier has a mentorship program. INGA, another trade association I'm part of, has a mentorship program. So there are ways that you can get that. But I think the best mentors I've found are the people in the industry, whether I work for them or not, that share the same passion and kind of haven't forgot where they came from, if you will. We were all young once, and I'm still relatively young, but we were all, 23, 24, getting out of school, needing some help. And I think if the student, or in this case, the employee, shows that they care, shows that they give a darn, really, and want to contribute, I think that goes a long way. And it can't just be make this about me. It's like how is you helping me going to benefit not only you, but the industry as well. So that's the value prop, right? If I have a young salesperson that needs mentorship and they work for me, of course I'm going to do it. It's my job. But also the faster they get up to speed, the more challenging projects and the more challenging things I can give them to help them grow in their career and also take it off my plate. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. Good. Well, I know I'm seeing that we're running down on time. Maybe the last question that I have for you is, I'm always curious about, in your experience, in your perspective, what is something that people think, either professional people or non-professional people, what do they get wrong about technical sales?
What do they get wrong about it? Well, I'll say this, not everybody is a technical salesperson, right? I mentioned it earlier, there are different types of salespeople. And so I think if you're truly a technical salesperson, Let me rephrase that. What they get wrong about sales is that I think we play golf all the time and we take customers to baseball games or football games and bars and all that stuff. There is some of that, and I think that's important. But really what they get wrong about technical sales is the value we can provide to our organizations and to the customers. I think that's kind of been a common theme. The more you know, the more informed you are, the more knowledgeable you are about what you're trying to sell and what your company is trying to produce or build or whatever, the better off you're going to be. So I would encourage people trying to get into technical sales to, like I said, get some time in the field, really understand what it is you're trying to sell. And I say field because I'm in construction. If you're trying to sell, pumps, go to the shops, learn how they work, spend time out there, talk to the engineers who design the pumps, get an understanding of what it is. And so the biggest, I guess, fallacy of technical sales is we're just, we don't know anything, right? We're just there to open doors, and that's not always the case. And in fact, I don't want someone just opening doors on my team. I want them providing value internally and externally.
Yep.
Does that answer the question? I think that was.
Yeah, I think so. Perfect. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing all this with us and letting us know how this works in Michels. And we'll get this processed and put out over the next couple of weeks. And then I guess I'll be seeing you in October. So
December. But yes, sir. Oh, what's in October? Is that
the event? It is
October, but I'm speaking in December as well. Yeah,
that's right. Exactly. Yep.
That's it for this interview. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Of course, if you did, be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever app you use to listen. Also, share this with your colleagues and friends, and let's continue to have a deeper discussion on all things related to selling and sales leadership. See you next time in the Sales Lab.